Hi, everybody. Deborah Dixon-Anderson here, Light of Gold PR. So excited to be on this customer testimonial video with a good friend of mine and colleague and someone I love working with, and that's Scott Mason. So happy to see you, Scott. How are you?
I'm in a doggone good mood because I'm able to be here and give you a testimonial that you deserve.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you so much for this. So, Scott, you and I have known each other for, gosh, it's been probably about 4+ years now, 4 or 5+ years. And I feel like we just automatically connected. So we've worked together, we've co-hosted. So, we have all these different skill sets, y'all. So keep us in mind, for all these different areas. So we just don't, just do PR marketing. Sometimes we put each other in these boxes and everything, but we're also speakers and we co-hosted events together. And so I would love you to share, Scott, just about what you're doing. I mean, you have this fantastic podcast and, you do all this coaching. So please share with our audience a little bit about you first.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I am a coach who works with executives who are looking for a more purposeful life, or maybe they're looking to upgrade their leadership skills. Perhaps they're even looking to explore entrepreneurialism. They don't know how, though. In other words, I work with executives who are looking to find professional freedom. We dislodge the toxic myths that are holding them back. We ignite the charisma within them. And then we take them on that odyssey to find their own version of freedom.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Ooh, that baby just gave me chills just hearing you
Y'all
say
deserve
that.
it.
I just love that. So that's exciting that you're doing this and it's so needed, today. There's so many people that need those types of services. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, especially now. So, what we're going to talk about, we're going to do a deep dive into the projects that Light of Gold PR has been hired for to work with you on. So, I think a good place for us to start is like the first project we worked on together, which was a reputation management project. So, we can talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I reached out to you, Deborah, because of a reputational issue that a client of mine had. This reputational issue was one that I felt posed an existential threat to them. It
Hmm.
needed an emergency response, and it needed someone who had a more deeply integrated marketing background than I, as a coach of the sort that I was engaged in with this client, could provide. One of the things that I was impressed by with you was how quickly you responded and the comprehensiveness within which, or the comprehensive nature of your response. I was also very appreciative of the fact that although you had your own ideas about how to address this,
Yes.
you were open to feedback. You were willing to
Yes.
get to know that client. You were emotionally committed to them, and you were willing to work with us hand in hand, not in a dictatorial fashion, but in a collaborative fashion. You provided some things that actually are really valuable tools, and these were things you kind of gave to us for free. And
Hmm.
those are things that I have no doubt that client is still using to this day. If they're smart, they are.
Yes.
And not
Yes.
only that, but you kept engaged with us. You were also planning oriented. You gave us some plans, you were willing to tweak them, and you were willing to customize those plans to meet the specific needs, personality, and interests of that client.
Right. Thank you so much for that. I did want to talk a little bit about just what, I'm just going to drop just a couple tips, just as an aside, like for those of you who maybe have gotten negative reviews or you're balancing a reputation management issue. It could be a restaurant, it could be, a store, it's like any and all businesses. And unfortunately, we live in a society where everybody rushes to put out negative before the positive, right? So a lot of times it's helpful to have a little bit of a plan and strategy for addressing those issues before they start coming at you. A lot of times we don't have a plan for, creating positive uh, reviews from clients who love what we do, love our product and service, so they can post. And sometimes that pushes down negative reviews. But the other thing also is if you experience any type of crisis management that you're dealing with, maybe it's a cultural issue that you've dealt with in your organization, making sure you're incorporating, a handbook or something like that. I think we worked together on a little bit on that, Scott, and making sure if it's like within a larger organization that it's shared across, the as big as the organization is, just go ahead and share that so that everybody's on the same page with what the culture looks like and articulating that. So a handbook, making sure now you put those statements on your website that we, celebrate uh, cultural diversity or whatever it may be, so that you can combat it also from a digital standpoint and from a web standpoint. And it really does help to deal with these types of issues.
It also goes as to the nature of the service that you provide. You really took the time to go through the organization's web pages and examine what was there and what was not, and then make concrete suggestions, as well as offered some templates that we could work from. And so we may have thought, and any client may think that what they have from a PR perspective can address potential crises, but these crises are of their own making, and they
Yes.
come as the universe brings them to you, not as we necessarily anticipate. So
Right.
having a proactive approach was something that we were grateful for. One other thing that I think is important to mention that you did was think about, again, proactively, how to handle issues like negative online reviews. Negative online reviews or other statements are things that can paralyze a business, because no one really knows on their own how to respond. You think you're
Mm-hmm.
doing the right thing, but without the guidance of a professional, you don't really know. You not only provided us with some templates that gave us substantive guidance, but the templates were multiple. One other
Mm-hmm.
thing that you see sometimes in response to negative online feedback are just repeats of the same thing over and over. So it looks like a
Yes.
robot's responding
Yes,
to a bad
absolutely.
Google or Yelp review.
Yeah.
Really provided a number of different response types that could ensure that anyone reviewing these understands that not only is the problem being addressed, but it's being addressed by a real human.
Yeah, by a real person. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that weigh in, Scott, because what was so great about this project, too, is that you and I work so collaboratively on this project, and being open to other schools of thought is really important.
Yeah,
For me, it's just like, we're open. That helps us to grow. We like to help our client to grow. So we understand that there's other perspectives that other people have, and we like to incorporate that into our arsenal of knowledge. So yes, having a strategy for response time to reviews is really important. And to be honest with you, Scott and I worked on this project with this client maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. So the response time back then might have been longer, but today in 2022, you have like a really short window of responding to a negative review. It's no longer like 24 hours or half a day. It's like, look, if you can see this and someone can respond to it in an hour, in a couple of hours, and 4 hours, that window has now shrunk, in this day and time.
absolutely. And in crisis situations, people are stressed out. Tempers can flare. They're not,
Yeah,
I myself am not always at my best.
yeah,
And one of the
yeah,
things I was also grateful for with you was that no matter what was going on, you were always positive. And
yes,
that's important for a client and
yeah,
anyone that works with a marketing or PR agency. You've got to really have the feeling that the person is behind you.
right. That's important because we want to feel like you're being supported and championed, because especially in a time that's really stressful.
Yeah,
So it's like, putting a positive face on this is really important and really helpful to be able to do that. So that we love to be able to do that. So now, after discussing that, we could talk about a project that we got a chance to work on with you directly. and just love this project because we worked so hand in hand together on this one as well. But it was special because it was your project and it was something that we were doing for you. So I'll let you kind of start out with what you do, and then we'll circle back to what our services were. So let's talk about the podcast, Scott.
Yes, let's just do that. So,
Yay.
as a coach and a speaker, it's important in this day and age to get your message out, to have a good visibility strategy, and to have the sort of credibility needed to stand out in the market, to have a viable podcast. Now,
Yes.
there are an endless stream of podcasts out there in the world.
Yes.
Differentiation is everything. And one of the key areas of differentiation, or one of the key ways that someone could stand out in that ocean of people sitting before microphones and interviewing others, is a name. The
Mm-hmm.
name had to not only stand out, but stand out to the exact audience
Yeah.
that I was seeking to reach.
Mm-hmm.
Had to convey the brand flavoring,
Yes.
and it had to mean something.
Right. Right.
Our exercise together was specifically a naming exercise for
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yes.
And I really appreciated this. When we first began to talk about the podcast, you pointed out to me that there are specific exercises that one can do that are
Mm-hmm.
more of a deep dive than I might have otherwise appreciated,
Right.
that relate to naming something like a podcast, or it might be a
Mm-hmm.
television show, or
Yes.
a theme, or a book, or something like that in other circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All I knew about naming media projects was that
Mm-hmm.
people sat around and just came up with something. And
Right.
not a skill I have, Deborah Dixon-Anderson,
Yeah.
but it is a
Yeah.
skill that you more than have. And it's not just you sat around with me and we shot the breeze and you just came up with
Right.
a name. You had an intentional,
Mm-hmm.
deliberative process.
Yeah.
Engaging in
Yes.
that process brought the best out in me. And
Yes.
it came
It
out
did.
right, and it led to a name that has been singular.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to my podcast production company about this name. The response of the CEO to that company was, "Wow, I wish I'd thought of that name."
Right.
And
Exactly.
talk to people about this podcast and its name repeatedly, I've gotten remarks about how memorable it is,
Yes.
action oriented, it
Mm-hmm.
is forward thinking, and it really represents who I am, what I want to be, and most important,
Yes.
what my message is all about.
Yes. And what is the name,
It
Scott?
is Purpose Highway, which you can find at purposehighway.com.
Absolutely. Purpose Highway. And look, a year later, after working together on that process with you, which was almost like a birth.
It was.
Look at how it stuck. It that's a name that will stand the test of time. And what we had to go through with you, from just understanding who your target market was, who you wanted to work with. What did now today we call niches avatars. What did
Yes.
your avatar look like? We had to go through that whole process, and we had to dissect all of these different names and go through it and throttle it basically to make sure that it would speak to the audience that you were trying to speak to, and that it was authentic for
Yeah.
you and your brand. So that's a lot to balance, but we were able to do that.
Well, one of the things that you did with regards to that was particularly helpful was pull people in your circle that were
Yes.
the audience avatar.
Yes.
It can be very easy to get caught in the bubble of one's own mind and say, well,
Yes.
this resonates with me, but it doesn't resonate with anyone else in the world.
Right. Right.
Especially if that target audience doesn't quite match who you are. In
Yes.
my case, the audience avatar was younger than I am. And
Yes.
so I might be thinking all sorts of things appeal to them, but my
Mhm.
language might be antiquated. The people
Right.
polled and the feedback we got with regards to some of the names that we proposed raised issues that I would never have thought
You
of.
would
They
never think about. We had a wonderful team member that worked with us who was younger, that worked with us hand in hand on this project to look at things from her perspective, like what would her generation look at as far
exactly.
as being attracted to that topic. And I think that's one of the things that we feel like we do well at Light of Gold PR. Our team is reflective of the marketplace, different races, cultures, sexual orientation, everything, international, local. We have that within our team, and we want them to weigh in on these projects because even for me, I don't know everything. I have a certain way of looking at everything myself, but to work collaboratively with a team is important too. So even though that person was a project lead, we still brought it back to the rest of the team to ask them, hey, what do you think? Would you be interested in subscribing to this podcast? And why would you? And why wouldn't you? So making sure we're polling the audience you're trying to get to is really important too. Sometimes we just kind of say, this is the name, everybody's going to love it. Just because you built it doesn't mean that they're going to come. Sorry to tell you, it's just the truth. And so testing it like that and doing that rigorous consulting and meetings that we went through is like turning things over and over again. Look at how successful it's been.
And I can
Exciting.
say, exactly, I can say without any hesitation that it's not a name I would ever have come up with on my own. I also can say without hesitation that the performance of the podcast, which is now in the top 5% of all podcast listenerships globally, is in no small part due to the name that
Yes.
Light of Gold PR and I work together to develop.
Yes. Thank you so much. Oh my God. I can't even add anything to that, Scott. That was awesome.
Isn't it great to just be shut up sometimes? I love it.
Thank you. I love that. I love that. So for anybody who's watching this, please go to, is it purposehighway.com, Scott?
You got it.
That's it. Go there and visit, subscribe, check it out. It's great. Definitely. It's wonderful. I'm proud to say that we had a little bit of a hand in that. We're so excited about that and the success of the podcast. And everybody who's watching, thank you for watching this customer testimonial with me and Scott Mason. Go ahead and visit lightofgoldpr.com as well. We'll have more of these because we want you to understand what it's like to work with us. We don't want to just maybe say it in a testimonial that's in text. We want to have these testimonial videos so you can actually interact and see, the interaction between me and the clients, the wonderful clients that we work with. So thank you everybody for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Thanks, Scott. Bye-bye.